All right. Welcome everyone to the Habitat demos for March 10th. We've got a number of things to show you guys, so let's just get into it. Why don't we start with Ian's changes installer.
Yeah, cool. So I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick. Theoretically, this should look like a terminal screen. Does everybody see that okay?
Sure do.
Okay, cool. So I'm not sure. There's like some way in Hangouts to set that to share to everyone. I would assume maybe it's a difference between being a host and being a viewer. But so we made some changes to the install script. There's a PR open on it right now, so you can go in and review it if you like. The primary difference is that we're now checking versions slightly differently than we were before, which is a kind of a dry thing to demo. But the whole point of it is we actually check a different API endpoint on Bintray right now, so that people have the option to submit not just a fully qualified version number. And essentially what we do is more or less, we just query this other Bintray API endpoint. We take that, we pass it through this really, really gnarly sed command that takes the minified JSON and spits out a list of available versions for all of our packages. And then we take the version that you've supplied and we make a comparison across those available versions to determine whether or not that the version you've submitted is valid. Then we wrap all of that in this a little bit of error handling, which more or less will tell us whether or not the version you supplied doesn't exist, is bad data. And then we also give you some options so that you can see, hey, these are the two things that we accept, either a semi-qualified version or a fully qualified version. So now when you run that install script, you can put in 0, 15, 0, and it will go out and you can kind of see, obviously I'm not running as root and I have Habitat installed currently, but you can see that we actually, oh, wait a minute, I forgot a command, -v for version. We also check against that channel. So theoretically, this script should work for both stable and unstable. And we say, hey, this is what you've given us. And here's the actual real version, and we're going to use that. So the idea here, I think, is part of like cleaning up temporarily cleaning up so that we could get like something automated around brew and also I think generally just kind of a step towards making this curl bash even on the intermediate, or this install script capable of being a first-class citizen for a curl bash, even if it's temporary. So that's my demo.
Good work, man. Yeah, I think that the spot that I heard it asked most for was so that somebody could create a homebrew formula. So that'd be great. Have that now. All right, Adam, why don't you show the renamed Vault to Origin service and Postgres?
Okay, can you guys hear me? I think maybe you can hear me?
Right.
Yes, okay, Victor. Let me share my screen. Okay. Hang on, apparently I have to click things to make this work. Okay, you can see my screen? All right, so we've been working on the Builder backend service. And so what we're trying to do now is get the backend moved over to Postgres in preparation for actually being a bigger deal. So we used to have a thing called the Vault, and the Vault would trap all of the sort of user data. And what we've discovered as we refactored it was that actually the Vault is the origin service, that there's stuff that's related to your origin and it all lives in this one place. So one change we made is we refactored the Vault to now be called the origin service, and also that thing now runs Postgres. So You can sort of see the basics here. So again, it's probably not the sexiest demo of all time, but we go in here and ask the origin server to build. What we'll wind up with is in the background, it'll spin up Postgres, run all the integration tests against it, make sure that everything works. And then at the same time, the build targets are also working. So if we go here,
the reason I get that feedback is that I can build the best version of something.
we'll let that thing block while it's running. So behind the scenes, what we have is this pattern for the services where they have these handlers. So handlers are where we receive the messages that are coming in from the router. So there's this router that handles message dispatch between all the different microservices that make up the builder backend. There go the tests. So a couple things that are interesting hiding inside there were there's 14 tests, but most interesting are each one actually builds a fresh database instance, sets up all of its background, does all the migrations. The services themselves are responsible for their own migrations, so nobody will ever in production have to run separate migration steps. The services just do that for you, which is cool. So hiding inside here, you have sort of skipping back to where we were. These microservices now all basically follow the same pattern, which is you have some handlers that take messages from a router, and then they turn and pass that stuff to the back end. And the back end is called the data store. So you can see here we're setting up those migrations. And then you just have really simple little functions that do just a little bit of database back and forth. And what we take in is the wire protocol that we received, and then what we send back is the right response to the back end, and everything's pretty rad. Also working now, if you're a developer, are the make builder run target now works again. So you can see that coming up right now. So now added into this is Postgres itself. So that'll also run the database in the back end, and then create the databases you need for the default settings for the job server and the origin server. And then those services will connect, they'll do the migration, and everything's cool. So we're getting a lot closer to having all of that stuff both well integrated and then also much easier to test. So there you go, that's my demo.
It's awesome to see. We're almost there. Just
Yeah, it's getting close.
only one more thing to migrate. All right. Next up is Matt with some much needed bug fixes.
Okay. Hopefully this will go well. Chrome seems to be really enjoying my CPU right now.
Great experience. Or I thought I was buying this other thing.
Okay. So we had a regression in the supervisor in the last release. We had a couple. The one that I'm going to demo has to do with package exports. So the problem that we had is that so here's an example plan, and here I'm exporting port as well. I'm exporting actually network.port as port. So you look at my default TOML, and here I've got here's my network.port. And the problem was that when we upgraded in the last release, we upgraded TOML libraries. So we upgraded to the new 3.0 library, which had some API changes. They used to have this lookup function that you could give it like a fully qualified path. Like you could basically give it, in this case, you would give it network.port, and then that would just bring back this value of 8090. And now what you have to do is you basically have to say, value.get network.get port. You can't give it the full path. And so that broke a few things. I know Celine picked something in another area that broke, but this is something that we didn't catch. And so if you export it, in this case, network.port, nothing got materialized to the config.toml. And you basically, that broke. You weren't able to discover this configuration. So fix that and release that to master this morning. And so now I've got, in this particular plan, I have it running, and here is just, I'm not going to show you me actually running it. So I'm running the supervisor in a couple other consoles, and here I've spit out the config.toml. And the thing to note is this. So previously this would have been blank. I would have seen this this bind, but there would have been absolutely no value down here. So now I actually do see port as 8090. So that's that.
All right. Are we gonna push that on a bug fix today or early next week?
Yeah, we should. Hoping to get out I think we have everything that we need to get into our bug fix release. So yeah, we should, hopefully right after we have a stand up after this, and after that, hope to get started on that.
All right. Well, look forward to that, guys, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.